There was a time, not so long ago, when all the adventure a boy could want, both real and imagined, rode on steel rails, while progress sang in an overhead wire. For me, there was only one job worth having, and one man worth growing up to be, a trolley man. His name is forgotten now, but not his kindness or what he taught me. The end of the line was a pause in his long day. We would talk about what he had seen on the trolley, about what I had discovered at play, what he had read in the newspaper, what I had seen at the Saturday show. And if I asked, and I always did, he would recall some bygone day, for he came from a family of trolleymen, his father and grandfather before him, and he had a marvelous watch passed down with tradition to prove it. Then, time seemed to stop, and yesterday stepped forward.
In October 1969, 7 years after the end of streetcar service in Washington, D.C., the Trolley Museum began operating its demonstration railway with American streetcars and European trams.
Mr. Dean, you conducted a dedication ceremony today. Can you tell me what it was all about?
Yes, sir. It was cars around here at the museum. Is it kind of a practice to add cars that were in service in Washington and bring them out here as part of your collection? Yes, well, the 4 Washington cars that are here and on public display today were donated by Mr. Chalk, an outright gift to the Trolley Museum. The other cars that you see were imported from Europe approximately a year ago to round out the collection of cars of, you might say, that serve the peoples of the world. It was a gesture of international goodwill from the Austrian and German governments. I see we have some representatives of the Maryland legislature. Mrs. Cook, what do you think of the museum and the ride on old historic number 766?
I think it's mighty fine. When I came out here in November of 1965 at the groundbreaking to give the dedicatory address, I had no idea that such success would come in such a short time. We must remember that this is all done with voluntary labor and contributions, and I think they have done wonderfully in such a short period.
How are you feeling?
We did. I'd like to point out that we will be open all winter long on Saturdays and Sundays from noon to 5, all winter, and it's nice in the snow, so if you have a chance to come out while we're on Bonifant Road between Lay Hill Road and New Hampshire Avenue.
And a bunch of us used to go up in the work car and haul rail up and lay it up around what is now called Dodge Loop. It was kind of fascinating because we used to make a lot of noise, hammering the spikes into the ties, and the deer used to come out of the woods very curious to see what was going on.
Hi, we're in Wheaton, Maryland at the National Capital Trolley Museum for Holly Trolley Fest. It's the festival of toy trains, real trolleys, and Santa Claus on a streetcar. I'm Rhea Feiken reporting for MPT on location. The Holly Trolley Fest runs today and tomorrow, but the museum is open on weekends throughout the year. We're in the exhibit hall now, and this is a model trolley layout. This is supposed to be Connecticut Avenue in the 1920s, and if you're a model train lover, you are sure to enjoy this. And speaking of enjoy, there's lots to enjoy this holiday season. You can go to Chestertown, Maryland for a step back into the 18th century during the annual Christmas walking tour. It runs today until 5 p.m. and admission is $15 for adults and $5 for kids. Get ready for some finger-snapping, foot-tapping fun as Maria Broom comes to the Baltimore Children's Museum at the Cloisters for a Kwanzaa performance. This musical delight takes place on Sunday, December 26th at 2 p.m. Admission is $4 or $3 for senior citizens. From the National Capital Trolley Museum in Wheaton, Maryland, I'm Rhea Feiken for MPT on location.
I think we're on the wrong side of the tracks. Whoops.
I know.
I missed it.
Did you? That was really funny.
Hi, we're in Wheaton, Maryland for the National Capital Trolley Museum's Holly Trolley Fest. I'm Rita Feiken reporting for MPT on location. This is a festival of trains and trolleys, and the best thing of all is you can see Santa on a trolley. Right, Santa?
Hi, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, too. The kids just are wide-eyed when you get on the trolleys.
Well, I need their help. We have to look for the reindeer. They've gone off to play hide and seek, and they love to play hide and seek up in the trees since they can fly.
Right, it's so much fun because you look outside, you see all the lights, and then you ask them for those Christmas gifts.
Yes, and I always like to find out what they want just to make sure if they've changed the list since I talked to them last.
Right. Well, it's a lot of fun here, and there are other things that you can do. You can have a time of your life at the Kwanzaa celebration at the Great Blacks and Wax Museum in Baltimore. They're going to have entertainment and an African marketplace. The celebration begins at 6 on Sunday, December the 26th. Admission is $4.50 for adults, $3 for kids. You can celebrate Christmas at St. Patrick's Church in Havre de Grace tomorrow, December 19th. There'll be a live nativity along with refreshments and traditional music. It runs from 7 until 9, and admission is free. Or you can go to the brokerage in Baltimore for the U.B. Blake National Museum's elaborate Kwanzaa celebration. And that is December the 27th from 12 till 5, and it's free. From the National Capital Trolley Museum, I'm Rita Feiken reporting for MPT on location.
I'm David Gall. I'm a member of the Trolley Museum. I have been for approximately 25 years. I've been active in the museum only for about 10 or 12 years since I retired. At the present time, most of my effort is devoted to car 678, our New York trolley. And I guess I'm doing this because I am a New Yorker. I was living in New York when the trolley was built and put in service, and naturally this car is a little bit of favorite of mine. Our plan right now is to restore this trolley just as it was in New York City when it was brand new in 1939. Most trolleys, particularly old-style trolleys, have what we call canvas roofs. And over a period of years, these crack and begin to leak and to rot. After we have stripped all the canvas off, then we have to remove the trolley poles, the trolley hooks, and the various pieces of wood that form a platform on top of the car. When this is done, we will then replace this old worn out canvas with brand new canvas, which will be attached to the roof of the car, be sealed, and then be painted the color that was the color of the car when it was brand new.
My name is Marion Woodville Sisson, but my nickname is Ham. I've been known as Ham ever since I was about 2 years old. And I first went to work for the traction company August the 2nd of 1934. And I was signed to Brightwood Car Barn as a motorman. And they put me on with a fellow by the name of Chuck Weaver. And Chuck says, here's the controls, and here's the brake. Didn't say nothing about how to feed it or how to release it or nothing else. So I've had training on how to feed the controller before I went up there. So I could handle the controller all right, but when I went to brake it, I didn't release the air. He says, oh, you got to let some of that off. He says, I forgot to tell you that. And of course, this car stopped like it hit a brick wall. And I picked up this little old lady at 9th and F, and she said, I want off at Quackenbaugh Street. I said, I'm sorry, miss, we do not stop at Quackenbaugh. We stop at Peabody and Rittenhouse, 1 block each side. I called both stops for her, nobody made a move. We get up Butternut Street, which is about a half a mile beyond, and here she comes. Wants to know when we're going to get to Quackenbar. I says, I'm sorry, we've already passed it. I said, I'll give you an emergency transfer. You can catch the car coming down the hill. Instead of her going on and catching the car, she stood there giving me a hard time. Finally, she turned the door right loose, and I knew when we come back out, she'd be standing there. So I picked her up, and she bawled me out for not telling her it was going to be the first car back. I says, you'll get off at Quackenbar. We do stop there inbound. I'll see to it you get off there. So I let her off, and I thought that would be the last I'd see of this little old lady. So next morning I get up to go to breakfast. I hear strange voices in the house, in the dining room. Here sits this little old lady, and when I walked in, she pointed her finger at me and says, there's that stupid conductor that carried me past my stop yesterday. It was my great aunt from Texas who I'd never seen before, and it's the last time I saw her.
Once we stood where the track ended, where only a generation before there had only been woods and cow pastures, and now there was the suburbs. And beyond, where there was nothing but fields, there would soon be streets, and on those streets people would build new houses and stores, erect churches and schools, design parks and playgrounds. All that because of 2 steel rails, a bit of electricity, people needing room to grow, and some means to get there. It was the trolley man's vision of growth and prosperity, and his dream, like his father and his grandfather before him, to be a part of it. It never came to be, at least not his way. He would never have believed that he was the last generation of trolleymen. And I would never have believed that I would grow up to be anything else but a trolleyman. But he was, and I did. That autumn, we basked in self-confidence. We gloried in our own special view of the past and turned innocently to the future, unaware, or perhaps only denying to ourselves the influences at work that were to alter our dreams. For then it was, and would always be, the time of the trolley.